obviously move on to some of the hurling action and run through obviously some results and some talking points definitely from the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship. And there was obviously a lot of big games, a lot of big talking points. Obviously the Cork Tipperary game, I think was definitely the game of the week. It was the only game in Munster this weekend. It was Cork 419, Tipperary 225. I mean, this was just classic hurling from the first minute to the last. I mean, it could have went either way going down the home stretch. Cork were 5 points down, ended up pulling it back. I mean, there was goals left, right, and centre, goals straight from puckouts, straight from throw-ins. I mean, this was just classic hurling, and incredibly enough, it wasn't on TV.
It wasn't, no. And as I mentioned in my TikTok last night, this was prime Guinness game. Like the time when Guinness sponsored the Hurling Championship, this was prime. This was an incredible game, from first minute to last. The funny thing is, actually, Tipp seemed dominant, I'd say, in the first 50 minutes. But what I seen from the Cork team, and why I was criticising Cork in the past and stuff like that, and I got criticism from Cork fans saying I'm being too critical of the hurlers and all that on your channel or on my social media channels or whatever, it's because they didn't necessarily have a backbone. In this game, when it was put to the test, Cork provided a backbone in this. What a performance in the last 20 minutes. Like, when it all seemed dead, Darragh Fitzgibbon then gets that goal through Conor Lehan. I think Conor Lehan would be secretly thinking, why did you tap that in? That should have been my goal. At the same time, but look, it's a Cork goal, so I don't think they'd be complaining in hindsight. But then again, for Mark Keogh to get that goal, you're thinking, oh, here we go again. Cork are not going to do anything here. But then Cork finds something. Shane Kingston finds a bit of space, pops the right pass into Brian Hayes. What a goal. And what a way to finish the game. And it's a credit to both sides, to be honest with you, Aaron. Because when you look at both sides' performances, you look at Alan Tynan in the midfield, who was colossal for Tipperary. You look at the forward line, like Mark Keogh, as I mentioned, scoring that goal. But he came on for Jason Ford, who's not an easy man to replace. And he still scores 1-4 from play. What an incredible performance. We knew Mark Keogh had potential. It was about producing on the big stage, and he did that last night. What a performance from him. What a performance throughout the field from every player. Like Noel McGrath in his 30s, but still he can hurl. John McGrath coming on as well. And Liam Cahill seems to have got a kick out of these Tipperary players. And ultimately now, with 2 matches on the board for every side, both of these sides are in Munster final territory right now. So could we see a Munster final repeat between the two in the Gaelic grounds? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, because like you got the sense obviously coming into the weekend's action, that obviously when we spoke on your own show, like Cork and Tipperary are 2 sort of up and coming teams, not necessarily in terms of history or anything like that, but they've had a lot of underage success sort of in the last 5 or 10 years, and you're looking at it and thinking, can they now finally make that step up in terms of the senior team? Can some of these players make the breakthrough? And I felt like this was the perfect moment, like as you said. Some of the older guard were fantastic, like John McGrath and Noel McGrath and everything else. But young players obviously shining the lights out, and for either side, like even a draw here, I don't think was the worst result, and it was probably the fair result as well, because like neither side deserved to lose this game, to be honest.
They didn't, and as you mentioned before, excellent performances on either side. When you look at Cork, Patrick Organ contributed his bit, and I was critical of Cork for a number of reasons, but the main reason was we were too reliant on Patrick Organ. But when you look at their scores last night, Declan Dalton 1-2, including a brilliant goal in the first few minutes, and then the point to equalise in his own half. What guts to take that free at the end as well. Brilliant score. Darragh Fitzgibbon, brilliant from centre forward. Seamus Hardy got 100% scoring accuracy last night. Robbie O'Flynn was brilliant. And it's a bit worrying, actually. Robbie O'Flynn actually went off injured after that goal, after the injury troubles he had. And we obviously wish Robbie the best. Like, hopefully he'll be back at the field soon after this. Shane Kingston come on, and he got 3 points as well. Brian Hayes getting a goal. But when you look at Tipperary, Garrett O'Connor took up the mantle for Jason Ford for the free-taking duties, and he did excellent, in fairness. And we were critical about Tipperary last season because they didn't have the youth to replace the older guard. They showed that they did last night. You look at Mark Keogh, you look at Alan Tynan, you look at Garrett O'Connor, and while we're on Tynan, that's his second Munster Championship game. I was actually surprised to hear that, because it seemed like he was used to this level of hurling. And that was an incredible performance from him as well. James Morris, brilliant as well. Seamus Kennedy, even Seamus Conlon. We talk about the older guard there. Seamus Conlon comes on and instantly he has a goal chance in the game. And he pops it over if he don't get that. And it was a brilliant save by Patrick Collins, to be fair. But excellent performances all over the field. Brilliant game of hurling. And I wouldn't be surprised if either side make it out. And it is kind of frustrating, honestly, Aaron. I know we'll get on to Dublin Wexford in a bit. But it is kind of frustrating to see either Dublin or Wexford will be in the All-Ireland series. And potentially one of these sides could drop. Because you look at Clare's performance last week. You look at Limerick. The excellence they've provided over the last few years. One of these sides could drop out of the All-Ireland, whereas Dublin or Wexford will be in the All-Ireland. And I kind of feel a bit of injustice with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like is there a solution there maybe to change it up? Or like I think the round robin is brilliant because of how competitive it is, because it goes down to the wire. And like I think there's a lot of great things about the round robin. But as you said before, like it probably is a bit harsh that, as you said, like one of Cork, Tipperary, Limerick, or Clare, like one of them, I think we'll all admit that it's going to be very tough for Waterford to get out, and they'll probably finish bottom. But for the other four counties, like one of them is going to miss out on getting to the All-Ireland series. And like these four sides, like they could be, I don't know if I'd put Cork in the same bracket, but right now, but maybe on the performance you could. But you're talking about some top teams, like teams that have got to All-Ireland finals, semi-finals. Limerick are obviously the reigning All-Ireland champions, and one of them is going to miss out, which seems very harsh. But at the same time, I'm not entirely sure what the solution is.
Yeah, it is a very, very tough one. Like when you look at it, I think the round robin's been excellent since it's been introduced in 2018. Like we've had some outstanding games, especially in Munster. But I think, honestly, Aaron, and I'll pose this question and well pose it a bit, but when you look at the Leinster Championship overall, like in the last few seasons, the round robin's only been entertaining in one season, I think. And that was 2019 when Galway went out. And Dublin and Wexford were actually good back then. But I just think Dublin and Wexford are not on the level of Cork and Tipperary last night, or Clare and Limerick for that matter either. So it's a difficult one because they're obviously in different provinces. And the round robins work so well. And it would be harsh, no doubt about it. I know Munster is more quality than Leinster and all that. But it would be harsh to have 4 Munster teams for race and 2 Leinster teams. So maybe there could be a situation like, could you do a playoff? Could you do a playoff maybe 4th place in Munster plays 3rd place in Leinster, and 3rd place in Munster plays 4th place in Leinster? That could work. Something like that. Because I just honestly think it's a shame that the likes of the teams we seen last night could be going out of the championship early. I don't know what you think about that yourself, Aaron, but it might be a suggestion to our future problems.
Yeah, like one good solution I did here, and it was from Shane Stapleton of OurGame.ie. I think he mentioned this about a year ago, and he was saying that we should first of all just scrap the league, because let's be honest, the league in hurling means absolutely nothing. I don't think anyone really cares about it. Go straight into the championship, and basically all the Leinster and Munster sides basically go off in one big league. Like one big league, 10 sides. They all compete against each other. The best place side the best 2 sides, the 2 sides that finish the highest from Munster, let's say, compete off in the Munster final. 2 best sides that finish the highest, 2 best placed Leinster sides play each other in the Leinster final. And then you do something like the top 6, top 7, obviously go on and progress. I know it's a straight league. Maybe there mightn't be as much jeopardy, as much knockout, but maybe that's something that they could possibly look at, like something of that nature.
Maybe, but at the same time, that's going to increase the amount of games. And we've said this in football and hurling, that's going to be bad for player welfare as well. If you're going to have, let's face it, that'll be just if you're going to have a 10-team league, that's going to be unfair to the likes of Westmeath, Offaly, or whoever comes up for the Drum at Dunnan next season as well. So we're going to say a 12-team league. That'll be 11 games per county before we get into the knockouts. Do you see the problem with that, Aaron? That's a bit of a problem there. But I honestly think I just thought about this on the point, just at the spot of the point now. But have 3rd against 4th in Munster and Leinster and have a bit of a playoff. That might solve a few issues, in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that yourself, but just a solution. I think Shane Stapleton actually means well with that format, and I think it could be good for Munster sides especially. But I think the amount of games, that's the problem we have. So there's going to be pros and cons with every solution, but that's my opinion on it anyway.
Yeah, and to be fair, like he probably explained it better than me. Like I think it was about a year ago I heard that sort of solution put forward. So don't know the exact ins and outs. Obviously it was his sort of take on it, and obviously not mine. But yeah, like it is an interesting point, obviously, because I suppose you could argue like the 6 teams in the Leinster Championship, there's 5 in Munster, so maybe the 4th place team in Munster could you could do a scenario then where they play the 3rd place team from Leinster. But then the case could be then like there's maybe not as much jeopardy then in Munster, and teams are almost guaranteed to get out of Munster in some ways. And there's only one team actually not getting through. So then it creates a scenario where a team nearly has to lose every game just not to qualify. But yeah, it is an interesting take, and maybe a backdoor system again could be introduced or something of that nature. That would be an interesting point of view. But we'll just have a look at the league table, obviously in the Munster Championship for now. So Cork are sitting on top on the basis of score difference there with 3 points. Tipperary are there with 3 points. Clare are in 3rd with 2 points. Looking at it there, would you be confident enough that Cork can get out of Munster with Limerick and Waterford, or Limerick and Clare in your final 2 games?
Like the thing is, it's not like a situation with the footballers where I'm just not confident in the team at all of beating big teams. Confident in the performances, I should say. Like the performances have been dreadful for the footballers now, but the hurlers, I think the performance last night was very, very good, and some very good signs about it. But the fixtures, that's the problem. 2 away games to Clare and to Limerick. Clare, Ennis is going to be a fortress. If Cork managed to get a point out of that, even a point, there's a slight hope. I think there might be a slight hope. I think, honestly, Limerick, there's going to be fire in the belly. I don't think we're getting anything out of the Limerick game. I think Limerick are too good to drop out of Munster. So I think it all lies in that game in Ennis. Do I think we'll get anything out of it? I'm confident that the players will put up a performance, and I'm confident that the players will provide a bit of a backbone, and they'll give everything out in the field. But do I think we'll win the game? Right now, probably not, because of the way Clare are performing right now. That might be mean to any Cork fan, but I just think Clare are performing so well at the moment, and Cork would have to go at 100% to go on and win this game. Do I think, and obviously Clare to make a few errors, do I think that will all correlate? No, I honestly don't think so. But look, there's a chance. Because of the way we performed last night, there's always a chance. But right now, 2 away games, 2 daunting away ties. I don't see us getting out of Munster, unfortunately,
Yeah, I suppose it just, and again, it probably boils down to how difficult those games are, like coming up against both Limerick and Clare. In fairness, looking at the Leinster Championship, then we have Dublin, obviously, who got a big win versus Wexford, 1 goal and 22 points. Wexford 23 points. I was watching this game, and it was a big result, big win for Dublin. As we were saying off air, like I think the wides was massively what cost Wexford. Like I think the game was more than there for them. Obviously, 20 wides in total, which was quite incredible, really, from a Wexford point of view. They nearly missed half their scoring chances. But for Dublin, a huge win gives us a huge chance now at getting out of the Leinster Championship. And from a Wexford point of view, it's not gone, but it's going to be tough from here to get over.
If you were to explain something to somebody from outer space, that one team would have 48 shots, the other would have 29, who would you say would win that game? The 48 shots, without a doubt. And that just shows you, like, I think it was in nearly 20, it was about 19 or 20 wides in the end. And some of them, we were mentioning off air as well, like, they were easy enough shots for Wexford as well. And oh my God, like, you'd be absolutely screaming at the TV thinking, how on earth do you miss these chances? And funny enough, Dublin had 29 shots, they converted 23. That was the difference. 79 shot conversion rate. Like Dublin did their best. They performed well. The forwards and Donald Burke hit an outrageous score towards the end as well. Their forwards were on form. Wexford's weren't. And that was the difference in the game. And Wexford will be absolutely tearing their hair out. And this has been a problem, not just in this game for Wexford, but it's been a problem for years and years and years. Even in the game against Galway in the league. I know we say the league doesn't mean anything, but even in the league against Galway, I'm pretty sure they had more than 10 wides in the first half alone. This has been a constant problem for Wexford for years. You know, they have the forwards, they have the talent, they have the never say die attitude for the jersey. But it's just the execution at times is very, very poor. And I don't know what it is about Wexford. I think the lads from the Wexford Hurling podcast, Ben and Gary, or my podcast recently, would probably know more than me about this. But what on earth is going on with the shooting of Wexford? But as for Dublin, I think you'd be a happy man, Aaron. Like, your shooting was absolutely brilliant last night. You died out in the field. Chris O'Leary was brilliant in midfield. Like, Mark Rogan was brilliant in one of his first championship appearances as well. Donald Burke, outstanding performance from him. Fergal Whiteley coming on. Like, you look at Alex Constantine, he may not have scored, but he was contributing a small bit as well. So, like, Dublin performed absolutely brilliant last night. They deserved a victory. They just wanted it more. But Wexford, the main question and the elephant in the room, the amount of wides. And you cannot get away with 19 wides in a game of hurling. You simply can't. 48 shots and you lose the game. That's incredible. And Wexford will be absolutely kicking themselves tonight.
Yeah, like is there an argument even that, like, when you look at Wexford, and obviously when you look at sort of the pre-days of Davy Fitz and before he came in, like, Wexford were probably, they weren't producing. They're probably nearly dropped to, more so like Offaly's level or even around, like Dublin sort of in the mid 2000s in some range as well. Like, and obviously Davy came in and it wasn't all him. Like, they did a couple of good underage teams and, they built off that hugely. And then Davy came in and sort of, that was the final jigsaw to the puzzle that went and saw them go on and win a Leinster title. But could there be an argument that era is kind of just slowly now coming to an end? Like, I know they still have the likes of Kevin Foley, Lee Chin still in the team, but and Conor McDonald as well. But obviously, as you get older, the engine slows down, and you would look at it from a Wexford point of view, and you would think, like, is this the sign that maybe that sort of era is coming down to an end, and maybe Wexford might possibly start dropping and possibly could end up a Joe McDonough team in the next 3-4 years.
That's a very, very big drop, to be honest with you. Because when you look at Westmeath at the moment, I don't think Wexford are as bad as them. Personally, I know Westmeath have made good strides, fair play to them, but Wexford aren't on that level yet. But could they in the next few years? Possibly. When you look at the young players coming through Wexford, like, they won a minor. I think they won a Leinster minor title. I think it was 2-3 years ago. So there's still talent coming through in Wexford. There's still the likes of Ross Banfield, who's a very good young player. You still have AJ Redmond. I don't know what's happened to him over the last few years, but I've heard good things about him. So Wexford still have good hurlers, and like even Carl Dunbar still think is a pretty young enough player. You look at Oisin Foley, you look at Oisin Pepper. Like, Oisin Pepper, actually, he performed well enough last season, and suddenly he's out of the squad. Is he injured? I don't know what's up there, but Wexford, I still think have the players to at least stay open to Liam McCarthy, and I think they're better than Westmeath. Do I think they're better than Antrim? I think Antrim are closing the gap now. That's the worry. Because you look at Antrim at the moment, you look at their players, like, you have the likes of Liam McManus, they aren't as reliant on him as they were in years gone by. And Antrim are improving year on year on year. So I expect Antrim, you look at Offaly, the success they had in underage. So I'm just saying, if Westmeath drop, Wexford are in trouble. They could be in trouble. I tell you, in the Leinster Championship. They won't be this season, but possibly next season. If Offaly, produce a shock or two. One little thing, if the game is on Tullamore between the two sides, Offaly could win that game on Cork Farm at the moment. So I think it's going to be worrying times to be a Wexford fan in the next few years. And who would have thought Leinster champions in 2019, then in 2024, you're thinking about relegation? It's a big drop, Aaron. Huge drop.
Yeah, like and I think they've more than enough talent, like not like for that not to happen. And as you said, the couple of underage teams obviously cooking at the moment as well. So like they should be like realistically, I think that's the worst case scenario. But I think when you look at counties like Offaly, you have a huge tradition and history in hurling. Like it can happen, and Offaly dropped down to Christy Ring not too long ago. So like it can happen, and you just never know, to be fair. But just looking at some of the other two games, obviously in the Leinster Championship. So it was Antrim 320, Kilkenny 531, and it was Westmeath 17 points, Galway 6 goals and 33 points. So yeah, two very, very comfortable results in the end. Like Antrim probably put up more of a fight against Kilkenny, I think it's fair to say. Whereas Galway just absolutely, blew Westmeath apart. And yeah, like it's kind of, I feel like in the Leinster Championship, like each weekend you've one game that's competitive, because obviously, you have Wexford against Dublin, or you have Dublin against Kilkenny, etc., etc. And then you have two very generally one-sided games. I know it hasn't always been the case with Antrim so far this year, but that kind of just how it is in Leinster, unfortunately. Like.
And you have to feel sorry for Westmeath, to be honest with you. I know they've made great progress. In fairness to them, Conor McKenna, the GA fanatic, by the way, has mentioned this in your podcast numerous times. Westmeath have made unbelievable progress. Fair play to them. But they were never going to be on Galway's level, let's be honest. And that game was over before the ball was even thrown in. So the less said about that game, the better. As for the Antrim and Kilkenny game, look, Kilkenny did the job. And when you look at Kilkenny and Antrim in the last few years, or even this year, Kilkenny struggled in Cork Park in the league. So to go up and win there quite comprehensively, that's fair play to Derek King and his team and his charges there to go up and get a win like that. But to be honest with you, Aaron, we knew this from the outset. It's a Kilkenny-Galway Leinster final. Before a ball was even thrown in, we knew this was going to happen, because Dublin and Wexford are kind of not at that level quite yet. And you look at Antrim kind of making progress, but they're not going to get to a Leinster final. And then you have Westmeath, who are in dire relegation trouble. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. So, Kilkenny and Galway. Hopefully the game is in the Leinster final in Croke Park is as good as the one in Nolan Park a week ago.
Absolutely. And I suppose we'll look at the league table then before we finish up. So we've Galway on top with 5 points, Kilkenny and Dublin sitting there with 5 points as well. Wexford in fourth with 2 points, and Antrim with 1 point. Westmeath obviously sitting bottom with 0. And looking at the last two games, Dublin will be playing both Kilkenny and Galway, whereas Wexford will be playing Westmeath and Kilkenny. So looking at it there, like it'd be tough for Dublin to get anything out of Kilkenny and Galway. Like I know we have a good habit of beating Galway every now and again, but I think we never really beat Kilkenny, so I don't think we'll take out from that game. And looking at it, like Wexford, you'd imagine would beat Westmeath, so it could go down to them playing Kilkenny on the final game. Kilkenny, you could imagine, will probably have a Leinster final, possibly wrapped up by then. Let's not forget Wexford beat Kilkenny in Wexford Park last year, so like you get the feeling it could go down to that game.
It could, yeah. And the thing is, the game's on Wexford Park this year rather than Nolan Park. So I give Wexford every chance. I know they're struggling this season. They aren't hitting the lights out. They conceded 6 goals against Clare, but I give Wexford every chance of doing well in that game. But let's not forget, Dublin are playing Galway in Croke Park, I think, as it stands. If they get a draw in that game against a Galway team that could already be in the Leinster final, by the way, like that would be enough for Dublin. No matter what Wexford do. Yeah. So, one draw for Dublin, and I think it's safe. I think it's mathematically safe, as a matter of fact, as well. So, I think if Dublin just defend for their lives in the 2 games, I think you should be fine to get out of Leinster arm.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it definitely should be more than enough, and I think we should be trying to beat Galway or Kilkenny. I think it gives us a chance, possibly getting to a Leinster final, which would definitely be an incredible story for Dublin, most certainly. I suppose before we finish up, then your hurler of the week and moment of the week from the All Ireland Senior Hurling Championship.
Hurler of the week, I'd probably go for Alan Tynan. Brilliant. Actually, Mark Keogh, 1-4 from play off the bench. Incredible performance for him. But Alan Tynan, close seconds. You look at Dickie Dalton as well, is up there, but in the end of the day, I'll go for Mark Keogh. And moment of the week, probably Donald Rourke's point towards the end against Wexford to see the victory. So I'm going to go for them moments and the players.
Yeah, I think I'll go with that as well. I think Donald Burke double. I think to go with there. I think his performance in general was sensational, and obviously that point at the end, obviously the icing on the cake, the one that very much sealed the victory. So I suppose we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Matthew, cheers very much for coming on. Make sure to check out the GA Statsman podcast when you get a chance. And for anyone who enjoyed today's show, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, would be very much appreciated. And we'll speak to you all soon.